Joining us now, Steve Sosebee, Executive Director of Heal Palestine, a nonprofit organization founded in 2024 to help deliver relief and support to Palestinian children and families. Thank you very much for joining us, Steve. Can you just give us a status update for what's happening on the ground?
Well, what's happening on the ground is that everybody's trying to get aid in, and the restrictions are still making it quite difficult to get the amount of aid that's needed to reach the people who have, over the last 2 years plus, been subjected to, the lack of food, lack of education, lack of clean water, lack of shelter, lack of healthcare services. When we're talking about aid, it's not just the basic stuff that's needed now. Of course, that's what's urgent and what needs to be provided, most importantly, food. But in addition to that, we have nearly 90% of the population do not have shelter. The access to clean water is, extremely difficult. The schools have been closed for 2 years. So we're thinking of not only the aid that's required now to help people get through this immediate acute stage, this lack of basic humanitarian supplies that have been denied to them over the past 2 years, but what's the long-term consequences of rebuilding Gaza and the impact what has happened over the past 2 years? What's the impact, the long-term impact going to have on the lives of especially children in Gaza, who make up half the population?
That's a really good point. I wonder, after the initial flood of aid and the trucks that come in, what is the next thing that needs to happen to make sure that malnutrition is kept at bay? What is the next step after just bringing in the trucks?
I think continuous access is really important. We have to remember that Gaza does not produce hardly any of its own food. The agricultural lands have been destroyed. The manufacturing that existed before, which was minimal but did exist, has been destroyed. So all food has to be brought in from outside. So there needs to be a continuous access from outside of food being brought in. And what's important now is also shelter, where winter is coming to Gaza. Winter in Gaza is quite harsh, and that people are living in tents. They do not have the basic requirements to just, even in many cases, survive these winters without disease, without other infections that are taking place, and without a healthcare system that has been utterly destroyed. Being able to treat these patients who get these kind of infections is really going to be a huge challenge. So we need to not only provide food, we need to provide shelter, we need to provide healthcare services, we need to provide education. Everything is needed, and nothing exists right now.
So part of the reason why it's been slower is that Israel, and they've long argued this, they need to check these trucks and make sure that arms aren't being smuggled in, et cetera. How do you mitigate that security concern while also getting this much needed help in quickly?
Certainly, whatever requirements are needed for security concerns on the part of the Israelis, and all the aid groups are ready to abide by. We provide not only the complete inventory of what we're sending in, but it goes through their screening process. So once it goes through that screening process, it should then be able to enter Gaza and reach the people. So while they may have legitimate security concerns, those security concerns can be met, and we can get aid to people in a timely manner. It doesn't mean that they don't get any aid. There just should be a very quick and thorough process in place to make sure it gets through to the people in need before the situation gets worse.
Do it quickly without the Rafah crossing being open?
I think that's going to be a huge challenge. Rafah crossing is a major source of aid coming in. Obviously, there's literally thousands of trucks that can enter and are ready to enter Gaza right away through Rafah, and it's been the traditional source of aid coming in. So I think it's been going to be a huge, huge undertaking to think that we can start the rebuilding process, provide shelter, provide food, provide clean water, provide medication, provide medical services to the degree in which it's needed without having the Rafah border open. I think it's almost impossible to have that expectation.
All right, Steve Sosebee, thank you very much for coming on and helping us understand. We appreciate it.